good could the Aggies be? What are the questions about the Aggies? Jason Turner covers them for the Herald-Journal. He's kind enough to join us for a few minutes here on the Bill Riley Show today. Jason, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So how was Gary's first camp back gone so far, and what's been the vibe coming out of Logan?
I think the vibe has been pretty positive. A great season last year. I think Coach Anderson's always been known as a player's coach. I think the vibe is good. I think people are excited for the season, and I'm very intrigued as to how it's going to go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, and I am too, just from the outside, obviously not being there on the ground like you are day in and day out. When you have Jordan Love coming back and you've got a star quarterback, that gives you a chance at any point in time. The problem is everything that made Jordan so great a year ago by the way of a surrounding cast is for the most part gone this year. So how are they filling in right now? We know what Jordan is. He's a big-time talent and an NFL prospect, but how are they filling around who's kind of emerged through fall camp on both the offensive line and some of the weapons for him?
I think, you do have Alfred Edwards. He is your lone returning starter on the offensive line, and I think he is going to be an all Mountain West performer this year as long as he stays healthy. 6'7", long, athletic, started every game last season. I think Andy Coach, 77, the right tackle, he had scholarship offers from 5 Power 5 programs. I really think he's going to have a special career at Utah State, but he's a converted defensive end. That was what he was in high school. So there's probably going to be some early season growing pains. At center, you got Demetric Aliafua. He didn't start as a freshman or a sophomore, but he played about 800 snaps between those 2 seasons. So he actually is pretty experienced. I think the offensive line is going to be pretty good. I think they're going to develop, but it'll be interesting to see how the first few games goes. As far as receiver targets are concerned, you have Jordan Nathan at the slot. I think that's going to be a strong position for the Aggies this year. They have 3 guys that the coaching staff is confident can get the job done. Taylor Compton being another kid, a kid from Logan High School, and then Devin Tompkins, a sophomore, very athletic. And then I really think Mariner's going to have a strong season for the Aggies.
I wanted to ask you about both COC Mariner and Caleb Rep. Rep comes up as a tight end. He bounced back and forth between tight end and defensive end at Utah. But, COC Mariner played quite a bit last year at Utah, but I think he wanted to kind of wipe the slate clean and try something new. So how have those 2 guys been in fall camp?
I think they've been great. I think everybody's really excited about them. You're going to see Mariner's going to start. Rep, it's a battle between him and Carson Terrell. They have a backup to Dax Raymond from a year ago for that starting tight end spot, but those guys are going to see a lot of reps this year for sure.
Talking to Jason Turner, covers the Aggies for the Herald-Journal up in Logan. So Jordan Love, terrific talent, second team All Mountain West a year ago, but nobody's ever a complete product coming out of their sophomore year. What was his emphasis? What did the coaches talk about? Because, again, he had David Yost up there and kind of coordinating things. So how has his offseason been? What's he worked on, and how is he kind of gelling and meshing with the new offensive staff?
I think he's gelling and meshing with the new offensive staff really well. Mike Sanford hasn't really changed a lot of things up. I think the offense is going to have a pretty similar feel as to it did a year ago. They're going to play with pace. I think the phrase I keep hearing the coaches talk about Jordan Love is just how he's so even-keeled. He never gets too high. He never gets too low. He's just kind of a cool customer out there. I think that's one of his biggest strengths. And, frankly, he just makes things look effortless. I remember, I want to say, second week of fall camp, he threw like a 50, 55-yard pass. Didn't even look like it was much strain on him at all. He just makes things look effortless out there.
Gerald Bright's going to be called on to kind of fill the shoes of Darwin Thompson, who's now having a great fall camp with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was productive last year as a backup back. Where does he go? Is he going to be able to fill that production gap that's left with Thompson gone?
You know what? I think it's going to be a pretty similar situation to last year. I think, Bright Thompson was the number 1 guy, but Bright was basically 1AA. I really think Jalen Warren's going to be that second guy this year. I think they're going to have a very productive 1-2 tandem again. I think the running game is going to be good this year.
Talking to Jason Turner, covers the Aggies on a regular basis. Defensive side of the football, that's kind of Gary's forte, especially defensive line. What are the expectations on the defensive side of the football this year?
High. This is a very experienced defensive unit. You got 7 returning starters from a unit that forced a ton of turnovers last year. Team that was much improved for the most part against the run. They had the bad game at the end of the season against Boise State, but otherwise that was one of the big bugaboos of the program a few years ago was stopping the run, and they shored that up for the most part last season. I think it's they're loaded up front. This is the most talent and depth they've had since I've been the beat writer for the Herald-Journal, so I think good things are in store for the defense.
Hey, Jason, there's some questions that you just kind of can't get answered about teams until they take the field. You know, the NFL's got preseason games, so you can get a few answers there, but is there a question about this team that you're not really sure about and you maybe won't get answered till next Friday?
Well, I mean, the offensive line's the big thing. Just how well they're going to protect for Jordan Love. How well are they going to mesh, being a young unit. Most of the guys on the offensive line are I mean, there's no seniors on the offensive line that are going to play significant minutes this year, I don't think. So that's the biggest thing. Another question mark is I think there's some questions as to how deep they are in the secondary. They have some good players back there, but if there are a couple of injuries, how well are those younger guys going to fill in? I have my questions. I really think this can be a good team, but I really need to see them play against Wake Forest before I could really give a full opinion.
It seems like a good matchup to start the season. Wake is kind of projected middle of the pack ACC. They're good. They're not great. It's a road test early. Then you've got Stony Brook and then a bye and then San Diego State. So it feels like it's a good test. When you look at this schedule, Wake on the road, San Diego State on the road, LSU on the road, Air Force on the road, Fresno, who was good a year ago, we'll see about this year, on the road. There's some tough road tests on this schedule for this team.
Absolutely, yeah. They're playing a lot of bowl teams from a year ago on the road. The good thing is Fresno State, San Diego State, Fresno State especially, lost a significant amount of impact players from a year ago. Telford's done a really good job up there at Fresno, but they have some questions to be answered too. And so I think this is a better year to get Fresno and San Diego State on the road than maybe the past couple. But for sure, this is a much more challenging schedule in my mind than it was a year ago.
It doesn't feel like there's a great team, if that makes sense, in the Mountain West this year. It feels like, as you said, Fresno's come back a little bit. There's some questions at Boise. San Diego's solid, maybe not spectacular. Utah State's got some questions. Do you feel like the league overall and maybe even the division's open?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, all the top teams from a year ago definitely have some questions to answer. I do think some of the teams toward the bottom of the standings are going to be a little bit better this year. So there definitely is more intrigue. I think Air Force is going to be better. Hawaii should continue its upswing from a year ago. I'm sure Colorado State, I have a hard time thinking they're going to be a 3-win team again. So, yeah, very intriguing. I'm very much looking forward to see how it all unfolds in the Mountain West.
I'd be curious. We've kind of done this with every team in the state, Utah, BYU, Utah State, but I'd be curious since you're on the beat and you're closer to it than me. Give me your best case record-wise and worst case record-wise scenario for the Aggies this year.
Ooh, it's a good question. I still think this is a bowl team, so I'm going to say worst case scenario 6-6. Best case, you can't expect the Aggies to go into Death Valley and beat LSU. I'm going to say best case scenario regular season 10-2.
Okay. I had 9-3, 6-6. So you and I were about the same. I just have a hard time seeing a team with Jordan Love and Gary Anderson running the show being worse than 6-6. But yeah, I said 9-3 maybe is the ceiling. Maybe that pivotal game being the BYU game November 2nd up there in Logan.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Travel safe back east next week, Jason. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jason. Jason Turner with us, covers the Ags for the Herald-Journal up in Logan. And